Good morning, everyone. This is Ryan Jackson coming at you. Um, RyanJacksonLLC.com. Hope everyone will have a good day today. I know it's in the wee morning hours on the East Coast, and it is out here on the West Coast as well. It's a little past 2:20 in the morning, but I just wanted, sometimes the spirit leads me to do things at odd times of the day, and this instance was no different. Um, and so I was just led in my spirit to do this podcast. And I had planned to do it later on today, but I said, you know what, I'm up, and while it's fresh on my mind, let me just get this off my chest and get it out there to the people. So here we go. So today is July 12th, and today is Bill Cosby's 84th birthday. He was born July 12th, 1937, which makes him 84 today. Um, as we all know, unless you've been on another planet or hiding under a rock, Mr. Cosby was released from prison 12 days ago for a Pennsylvania prison after serving 3 years for a crime his accusers couldn't prove that he committed. He couldn't prove it. So basically, this man went to prison for something that they had no proof. His due process and civil rights was violated. Thus, this is why the Pennsylvania Supreme Court released him from prison, because his due process and his civil rights were violated. And they couldn't prove that he sexually assaulted or raped these women. He admitted to giving them drugs. Not drugging them is not the same thing. He willingly gave them drugs, and they took the drugs with the consent of having sex with him. That is not drugging anyone, y'all. That is not rape or sexual assault. That's consent. He gave them Quaaludes with their consent of having sex with them. But Gloria Allred and her band of terrorists put the smear campaign out in the media, telling women, if you had contact with Bill Cosby in the 60s, 70s, and 80s and 90s, call my number. And this was a classic shakedown and a miscarriage of justice. It was a travesty, and you know we should be ashamed of ourselves as a society. But you know what? That's how it is for black men. It's been that way for generations. Back in the day, they used to lynch black men, hang them from trees, maim them, and kill them and burn them. Now they just, make baseless accusations against you with no proof whatsoever, and send you to die in a prison with no proof whatsoever. Riddle me this. Riddle me this right here. Has a white woman been sent to prison with no proof of her committing a crime in the history of this country? I mean, yeah, you had the Salem witch trials, but that's a whole nother story. But I'm talking about like in modern history, has a white woman been sent to prison to die without proof of her committing a crime? Riddle me that. I'm gonna answer that question for you. Hell no. Hell no. It hasn't. It haven't. It has not ever happened, and it will never happen. I'm gonna say it again. It's never happened, and it will never happen. Because white women cry Becky a whole bucket of Becky tears, and that's all you know this this so-called justice system need is a white woman cue her Becky tears, and automatically, oh, black man did it, he's guilty, she's crying, she's sobbing, so let's convict him and send him to prison to die without any proof, without any damn proof. So the Pennsylvania Supreme Court knew this, so they released him, and they said he cannot be tried again. And they released him, like I said, because his due process and his civil rights were violated, and rightfully so. And Mr. Cosby was released from the Phoenix Correctional Facility, which is right outside of Philadelphia, on June 30th to be with his loved ones, and rightfully so. He should have never done 1 second in that damn gulag. Not 1 second. You sent a blind 81-year-old man to prison to die for a crime that you could not prove that he did. Are you sick? That's an act of terrorism. That is an act of war. That is an act of terrorism. This feminist movement has never been for black people. It's never been for the black woman. They've lied to the black woman that black men are their oppressors. Since when have black men oppressed black women in this country's history? That is a damn lie from hell. And y'all know it is. This feminist movement is a disgusting tactic to divide and conquer the black community. They tell black women, you don't need the black man, you can make it without him. Um, we don't. He don't need to be in the household to raise his kids. They divide and conquer. But yet, they're with their husbands. They're with white men. They're raising families. They have men in their communities. This is a disgusting. This feminist movement. It is a disgusting tactic by white as another branch on the tree of white supremacy to bring to divide and conquer the black community. I'm not being sexist. I'm not being misogynistic. I'm just being truthful. Damn it! And you got to call a spade a spade. It's just disgusting, and it just serves to just tear down the black community, divide it, tell black men, tell black women, the black man is your oppressor. The black man, when the black man is being oppressed themselves. How the hell can we be the oppressor of anybody when we are the oppressed? But Malcolm X said years ago that, the media will have you loving the oppressor and hating the oppressed. But in this case, it's the feminists. But then when the black man gets locked up, then they turn around and say, well, see, they're lazy. They don't want to be in the home. All they doing now is committing crime. How come they're not in the home? So it's a damn if you do, damn if you don't kind of tactic. You don't want the black man in the home. You don't want the black man in the community. But at the same time, when he's going to jail, being locked up, then you ask, well, how come he's not in the home? Why isn't he raising the kids? Why isn't he being a husband and a father? This country is disgusting, but be that as it may, we've known this for decades, and it's not going to change. But back to Mr. Cosby, most of us in the black community are ecstatic and happy that he's out, and with his loved ones. But black men everywhere, heed these words. You need to be careful. You need to keep in mind that a white supremacist terrorist can take Mr. Cosby down, the most powerful black man in entertainment history, the most powerful black man in entertainment history. If they can take him down, they can take down any black man in this country, including myself. So I'm taking heed to my own words. I need to be careful too, because any Becky could come out here, oh, Ryan Jackson raped me, and you can't defend yourself against rape. She don't have to have any evidence. She could just lie and say that I raped her. I've never seen this woman. Or if I, somehow, if God allowed me to have a powerful voice and, be well known, then, that's why Eddie Griffin always said that black men do not leave the entertainment business unscathed. He said that years ago, and damn if he's not right. The comedian Eddie Griffin said that, and damn if he wasn't right. So if it can happen to Mr. Cosby, it can happen to me. It can happen to Eddie Murphy. He better be very careful because he had a lot of things to say about Mr. Cosby when he was in prison. And we know they have a beef that goes back to the 1980s because he made fun of Mr. Cosby in his 1987 stand-up film Raw. He said Mr. Cosby, got on him for cursing and saying not saying filth and while during his act, and so they had kind of a beef. And Bill Cosby kind of, came down hard on Eddie Murphy, and Eddie Murphy took issue with that, took umbrage with it, and he never forgot that. And even a couple of years ago on Saturday Night Live, when he hosted it, he made comments about Mr. Cosby. He took shots at him. But beware, Eddie Murphy. Beware, Eddie. Be careful of your words, brother, because if they can take him down, they can take you down too, and you're gonna be looking real stupid for for making besmirching comments about Mr. Cosby, and you in the same place that he was in. So be very careful of your words. Be very, very, very careful. Life has a funny way of slapping you around, of making you eat your words, of making you eat crow. So be very careful, Eddie Murphy. Be very careful, Hannibal Burris. You told that damn lie about Mr. Cosby. Be very careful. Be very careful, Keenan Thompson. You're corny behind. They could take you down too. So all you detractors that had something to say about Mr. Cosby years ago, y'all better be very careful. These white supremacists don't love you. They will spit you up and chew and they will chew you up and spit you out and step on you and just urinate on you and burn you, and they will do all manner of things. So y'all better be very careful. Be careful. Be careful. But I'm glad Mr. Cosby is able to see his 84th birthday. He's with his wife Camille, and I'm happy for this man that he's out, that a justice has been righted, like Miss Felicia Rashad had tweeted 12 days ago. So let's go into the background of Mr. Cosby briefly. Um, so, like I said, Mr. Cosby was born July 12, 1937, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He is one of four sons of Anna Pearl, a maid, and William Henry Cosby Sr., who served as a mess steward in the U.S. Navy. Um, Mr. Cosby went on to, I'm going to just go briefly here because it's a lot here. He attended Mary Channing Wister Public School in Philadelphia. He was on the basketball and track and field teams there. He attended Fitzsimmons Junior High School, and he acted in plays, and he continued to compete in sports. He then attended Philadelphia Central High School, which was a magnet school, and it was a rigorous college prep school, and he ran track, played baseball, football, and basketball. He then transferred to Germantown High School, and I've been in Germantown. It's in North Philadelphia. Pretty rough area, but I like Philly. It reminds me so much of Detroit. Philly's one of my favorite cities, but Germantown is in North Philly, which is where Mr. Cosby's from. He transferred to Germantown High School, but he failed the 10th grade. He then went on to enlist in the Navy and served as a hospital corpsman at the Marine Corps base in Quantico in Virginia. He then served at the Naval Station Argentia, yeah, Argentia, I think that's how you say that, Naval Station Argentia in Newfoundland, Canada, and at the National Naval Medical Center in Maryland. He worked in physical therapy with Navy and Marine Corps personnel who were injured during the Korean War. He earned his high school equivalency diploma. Now we know it as a GED. He earned that through correspondence courses, and he was awarded a track and field scholarship at Temple University, also in Philadelphia, in North Philly, in 1961. He studied physical education while he ran track and played fullback on the Temple University football team, the Temple Owls. He was bartending to make ends meet at a Philadelphia club, and that's where he began to perform on stage. And he left college to pursue a career in comedy. Excuse me. Got the sniffles here, so please bear with me. Yeah, and he started in comedy, and he released his first album in 1964, which was Bill Cosby is a Very Funny Fellow, right? And then his next album was To Russell, My Brother, Whom I Slept With. And it was listed as the top 40 greatest comedy albums of all time. And it has been called a stand-up comedy masterpiece. Let's see, Mr. Cosby. This is my favorite stand-up film by him. He missed in 1983, a year before the Cosby Show. He released Bill Cosby himself, and it was regarded as the greatest comedy concert film ever. And part of it was he was talking about his family, which led to the pilot for the Cosby Show and led to the Cosby Show being brought onto NBC. But the life with his family, with his children, his marriage, the stuff from in the Cosby Show was Bill Cosby put that in his material a year earlier in the film Bill Cosby himself. So the material that was used in that comedy film was used as the basis for the Cosby Show. And we know the Cosby Show premiered in 1984, and it stayed on for 8 seasons, and it went off in 1992. And in my opinion, it's probably the greatest sitcom in TV history. Um, Felicia Rashad is the greatest TV mom in television history, in my opinion. The greatest TV. She just exuded the grace and elegance of what a black woman should be. She was just so like morally sound, intelligent. She exuded what black excellence was from a black woman. She did the greatest TV mom in television history. She just exuded so much grace. She has never taken a role that degraded black women, even till this day. And she's 73 years old. She still is graceful and elegant and beautiful at 73 years young. Yes, she is. And Mr. Cosby just exuded grace. He was America's TV dad. Ronald Reagan was on record as saying as the Cosby Show was his favorite show. That's saying a lot coming from him, um, considering what he did to the black community. Yeah, he liked the Cosby Show, but he put drugs in our community and declared war on us. But that's another story for another time, so we're not going to get into that. But Ronald Reagan loved the Cosby Show. Many white people did. I remember coming up, that's all white people, Thursday at 8 o'clock. We have to watch the Cosby Show. Bill Cosby's funny. We have to watch it. White people let their kids watch the Cosby Show. That was like wow. They just loved the Cosby Show. And of course, we did too in the black community. We loved the Cosby Show. I still watch it to this day. The reruns. They come on TV One Monday through Thursday, and I love the show. Always have, always will. Mr. Cosby, who played, Dr. Heathcliff Huxtable. He was an obstetrician. Um, he was a graduate of a HBCU, Hillman University, which was a fictional school. He was married with 5 children: Sandra, Denise, Theo, Vanessa, and Rudy. That's fine. Yep. Sandra, Denise, Theo, Vanessa, Rudy. Yep. And then his wife, Claire Hanks Huxtable, who also graduated from Hillman and was an attorney, was a successful attorney. And they lived in Brooklyn Heights, in a beautiful brownstone in Brooklyn Heights. And they raised their children. They taught them, their kids got on their nerves and they punished them justly, but they showed them love and that they were caring and that they cared about their education and their well-being. That's one thing about, like I said, about Mr. Cosby. He always pushed for education in the black community. He always wanted the best for black people. Even though sometimes he made comments or with the talking about the 2004 pound cake speech, which didn't go over well. I mean, I didn't like it, but his heart was in the right place. His heart was. I know where he was coming from, and I knew what he meant, and I knew his heart was in the right place. But I just didn't like the words he used, or I thought it was very, very mean spirited, but his heart was in the right place. But his wording, well, he could have used better wording. But be that as it may, he's always pushed um, education, black excellence for black people. He donated millions, him and his wife donated millions upon millions of dollars in 1988 to HBCUs, Spelman, Morehouse, Howard, you know, many others in 1988. I think he donated, he still has the record for the most money donated to HBCUs, even to this day. And that was 33 years ago, 1988. I never forget it. Mr. Cosby did that. However, some of these HBCUs, Morehouse, Spelman, and Howard, they have voiced their disdain for Mr. Cosby. They're following this white, liberal terrorism tactic, and they come out and they voice disdain for him for the stuff he was accused of doing. What, like we said, like I said earlier, with no proof, and they took his doctorate degrees away, I believe, but yet they still have his money. So you go out here and you voice disdain for him for stuff that he was accused of doing, which they had no proof of, but you still keep the man's money. Give him his money back. That's what I'm saying. I guess if the disdain wasn't that serious, huh? Y'all still kept his damn money. It's funny how that works. But anyway, moving on. Um, he created the TV show, which was A Different World, which was a spinoff of the Cosby Show, and A Different World was about a fictional HBCU called Hillman University in Virginia, and it dealt with the lives of the care of few of the students at Hillman. It was actually a spinoff for Lisa Bonet, her character Denise Huxtable, and Mr. Cosby had fired her from the Cosby Show because she did a movie. What was the name of that movie? In 1987 with Robert De Niro, which had a lot of pornographic sex scenes, and he wanted the Cosby Show to be wholesome and upstanding for black people. And she did this movie, and he fired her from the Cosby Show, and he put on A Different World. And she was only on A Different World for one season, but um, the year that she was at A Different World, uh, for the sake of the shows, that was her second year at Hillman. She was a sophomore. So the first season of A Different World was Denise Huxtable's sophomore year, and she had to deal with being a student. She was irresponsible, lazy, um, procrastinator. You know, typical. Somehow some teenagers are. And Dwayne Wayne, Kadeem Hardison, love that brother. He spent the whole season chasing her, trying to get with her. And then, she had to deal with Snooty Whitley Gilbert, who was played by Jasmine Guy. And her roommates was Jaleesa Vincent, played by Dawn Lewis, and Maggie. I don't remember Maggie's last name, but Maggie, which the world was introduced to Marissa Tomei. That was her first big break, Marissa Tomei. The next season, Marissa Tomei left the show. Um, so did Loretta Devine. She left too, but she had left midway through the first season. And Lisa Bonet left the show. She left the show too. And so the show that's really focused on Dwayne Whitley, Dwayne's best friend Ron. He got promoted. Ron was silly. Ron was funny. He's probably my favorite character. He was a goofball. It dealt with Dwayne Whitley, Ron, uh, Jaleesa, Walter Oakes, played by the comedian Sinbad, who was hilarious on the show, and they brought in new characters. Kimberly Reese, played by Charnel Brown, Freddie Brooks, played by Cree Summer, um, Colonel Brad Taylor, played by Glenn Turman, and Mr. Gaines, Mr. Vernon Gaines, played by the late great Lou Myers, and he ran the pit. Mr. Gaines, he ran the pit, and that's where Kimberly Reese worked, and she was a med student, and she was bright young lady, beautiful. They had beautiful women on a different world too. All the women were pretty women, elegant women. That's what I loved about a different world. It showed young black people in a positive light. Dwayne was an engineering major, a student. He was trying to get a career with Kanishiwa Electronics. Ron was a slacker, but Ron had goals. He wanted to go into business as a musician, start his own band, and he went into business with Mr. Gaines, and they owned their own club. And Colonel Taylor was a strong like father figure, disciplinarian, but he just exuded grace. And Lou Myers, he was the OG of the bunch, and he used to give them all advice. Um, he was just a wise older black man, and that's what we need now. There needs to be a reboot of a different world. There really does. A different world needs to be rebooted. That was a great sitcom. I love that show. That and the Cosby Show, Thursday nights in the '80s and early '90s was great TV. You had the Cosby Show at 8 o'clock and a different world at 8:30. You could not beat it. You could not beat it. You couldn't. It was just great TV for our community. And truth be told, a different world caused admissions to HBCUs to skyrocket. Believe it or not, it caused admissions to HBCUs to skyrocket because Hillman just portrayed HBCUs in a positive light. It encouraged our young people to attend HBCUs to get an education, and it just gave a gave a perfect example of life on a college campus, especially a black college campus. Ron was in the step show, and Dwayne was a bright black man, and Whitley and Kim were in a sorority, and Freddie was the earthy chick. Jaleesa was a businesswoman. It was a great show. But this just goes to Mr. Cosby's genius. Mr. Cosby's genius of, I mean, he struck gold with both sitcoms because, like I said, the Cosby Show and then A Different World. And A Different World stayed on a year longer than the Cosby Show. So, um, excuse me. So, but yeah, I think it stayed on 6 years. Yep, 6 years. But yeah, but like I said, Mr. Cosby, of course. Oh, how can we forget Fat Albert? People who grew up in the '70s and '80s, myself included. Hey, hey, hey! It's Fat Albert. Great, great. I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say it. I think it's the greatest cartoon ever made. Fat Albert was so educational. Fat Albert was based on Mr. Cosby's childhood in North Philadelphia. Um, he had characters, from his childhood. His brother Russell was, or character Russell was in the cartoon, and it taught kids about saying no to drugs, about peer pressure, um, about bullying, about um, doing well in school. It just taught kids lessons. It was comedy, but there were lessons being taught in the episodes. And Fat Albert stayed on for 14 years. How can Fat Albert, Doctor? He wrote his dissertation on child education, and he used Fat Albert to write his dissertation. He sure did. He used his dissertation to write Fat Albert. He used Fat Albert to write his dissertation. Excuse me. Dr. Cosby sure did. Fat Albert. Great, great cartoon. Great cartoon. Um, moving on here. In the mid '90s, he and Felicia Rashad did another comedy. Um, Let me see. Oh, I'm skipping over something. I'm sorry, I just got so wrapped up in the Cosby Show and Different World and Fat Albert. Bill Cosby started in the mid '60s. He started a show. It was kind of like a espionage show called I Spy with the late Robert Culp. Robert Culp went on to star in the Greatest American Hero with William Catt, years later. But him and Mr. Cosby starred in I Spy, which was on from 1965 to 1968, and it was the first show that had uh, a white male lead and a black male lead, and this was in the mid '60s, and that stayed on for 3 years. Let me see. Of course, Mr. Cosby did a couple, about three Blacksportation movies with Sidney Poitier. He did Uptown Saturday Night in 1974, Let's Do It Again in 1975, and he did A Piece of the Action with Sidney Poitier again, and Ernest Thomas from What's Happening fame was in that movie. He did a movie in 1978 with Richard Pryor called California Suite. That movie was so hilarious. Oh my gosh. Richard Pryor and Bill Cosby in California Suite had me in, had my side hurting. That movie was so funny. Oh my goodness. Let me see here. Okay, so in 1996, Felicia Rashad and Mr. Cosby linked up again to do a show called Cosby, which was on CBS. Um, it wasn't. He didn't play a doctor, and she didn't play a lawyer, but they had a daughter. I can't pronounce her last name, but she was on Living Color. They had one daughter, and they had an adopted son played by Dougie Doug. He was funny in that show. Dougie Doug was from Cool Runnings, the short, the short-lived sitcom Where I Live, and Eight Late Freaks, the movie. He was funny in that too. But he was their adopted son, and he lived with them. And Madeline Kahn, the late Madeline Kahn was in the show, and it was on for 4 seasons from 1996 to 2000. And then Mr. Cosby did another another cartoon called Little Bill. It was about a 5-year-old little boy. Little Bill grew up in Philadelphia, where Mr. Cosby's from, and that stayed on for I think about 4 or 5 years. So Mr. Cosby has done a lot. He has done a lot for our community. I'm not saying he's a perfect man. Lord knows he has his flaws. I mean, he stepped out on his wife. He gave drugs to women, but he didn't. There's no proof of him raping or sexually assaulting anyone. Let me repeat that. There isn't any proof of him sexually assaulting or raping any one of these women. There's no proof. That's why they had to let him out of prison. So, I wish Mr. Cosby the best on his 84th birthday. My thoughts and prayers are with his family, with him. I know he's up in age now. He's elderly. He's blind. Um, there's talk of him doing a comedy tour. I would love to go see him personally. I would still go see him. If white people could support their people that have done deeds that were criminal, that's been proven, then we can support this man that was accused of something that they had no proof about. We can stand by him and support him. We don't have to agree with everything, but we can still support him. And that's the problem that's wrong with our community now. We don't support each other. We'll sell each other out and backstab each other, talk bad about each other, but we won't support each other. We will not do it. It's sad but true. And so, like I said, happy birthday, Mr. Cosby. Love you. Stay strong. You you're an inspiration to me. Even though I know you committed you did things in your life that weren't honorable, but and I didn't agree with. However, I appreciate what you did for our community, what you have done for Black people over the past 50 plus years. I can't thank you enough. I salute you. I salute you, dear sir. And I hope you enjoy your birthday today. You're 84 years young. I hope you enjoy your day with your wife Camille, and you listen to some jazz and y'all dancing, and she let you eat some hoagies or a cheesesteak. I know she's gonna put you. I know your spokesman Andrew Wyatt said on Boyce Watkins' podcast last week that she that she's gonna put you on a strict diet. So I hope she let you splurge today. You deserve it, sir. Thank you for everything you've done for our community. Um, Godspeed. God bless you. I wish you the best. Hold your head up. Don't let these people take you down. Keep your spirit up. Uh, I hear that from your spokesman. He said you still have your humor, so that's good. I thank God for that. And like I said, I know health wise, like I said, you lost your sight, but you still have your sight, and you still have your eyes on clearing your name. I'm glad for that. And I know your spirit is strong. And like I said, happy birthday, dear sir. Happy birthday, Mr. Cosby. And on that note, I'm out of here. I just want to just share my thoughts on Mr. Cosby, how I just enjoyed this man over my life, from Fat Albert to Lil Bill. I did watch Lil Bill. So, and he just was a perfect example and of what a black man should be on TV. He was a positive. I mean, you had Fred Sanford, but he wasn't. He was a junk man, and he was angry. He wasn't a good example of a black man. Uh, George Jefferson, uh, no, because he was a businessman, but he tried to kiss up to white people. Yes, he was funny, but he tried to kiss up to white people. JJ, Lord knows he wasn't a good positive positive um, role for black men. He was dumb, couldn't read, and just goofy. So not JJ. Now James Evans was. He was a strong black father who didn't take no mess. But like I said, they killed him off the show, and they let JJ be the star. And so no, Jimmy Walker was not a positive influence on black men on the TV screen. Mr. Bill Cosby was their greatest positive influence of a black man on TV was Mr. Bill Cosby. That will always be the case. I don't see no one taking that position from him. So on that note, like I said, I'm out of here. Take care, y'all. Let me know what you think of the show. Share it on social media. Get it out on the algorithm. Yeah, feel free to share it. Comment. Let me know what you think. Let me know your opinions and let me know what you think. We don't have to agree, but we can disagree without being disagreeable. So until next time, take care, y'all. Love you. God bless. I'm out. Peace.